Hello, I'm Andy Thomas. I'm a research assistant professor with the University of Missouri. I'm based here at the university's Southwest Research Center at Mount Vernon, and I have been here going on 25 years. So about 24 years ago, I began working on elderberry, which I'm standing in a beautiful patch of elderberries in full bloom here in, early July. So I'm going to tell a little bit of the background about elderberries and how we got here and a little bit about what we're doing. So the story kind of starts, like I said, about 24 years ago at a meeting in Wichita, Kansas. So a colleague and I were at a meeting at a kind of a small fruit grower meeting, and we were drinking this really good wine that was being served at the conference. And it was really good, but we were asking, what kind of grape is this made from? Well, we found out it was elderberry. And it was made by Wildwood Cellars. John Brewer has Wildwood Cellars over near Wichita. So it was very, very good wine, and we all enjoyed it. But we asked John, where are you getting the elderberries for your wine? And he said that he just gets them by the railroad track, walks down the road, and harvests elderberries. So kind of a light bulb went off, and we thought, can maybe we could grow these. And we asked John if we could cultivate and grow higher quality elderberries, if he might buy them. And he kind of hemmed and hawed and said, yeah, probably. So that kind of got us started. So my colleague Patrick Byers and I began collecting varieties of elderberries that were available, which weren't very many at the time, and just planted them up here in this very area, just to begin kind of looking at how they're going to grow. And I guess I could back up a little bit that I've always had an interest in kind of native, undeveloped crops and fruit crops, so this elderberry fit right in. So we started out, again, with a few plants, just kind of trying to grow, see if it would grow here, and they did pretty well. And again, these are just beautiful here. So we had some really good colleagues in Oregon that we knew from Missouri, kind of a long story there. But we eventually kind of put a project together and got a little bit of grant funding to kind of beef the project up a little bit. This was still in the late 90s. So things started to grow, a little bit of funding, a little bit more research. We initially studied the pruning of elderberry, and then also just kind of looking at better cultivars that we might be able to grow here besides just ordinary wild stuff growing in the ditch. So things, it was kind of fun and interesting, and kind of kept going, and a little bit more interest. And within a couple of years, our friend Terry Durham, who is with River Hills Harvest, based in central Missouri, we had known him a long time, but he really took an interest in what we were doing and had already been interested in elderberries, and he really started to take this to the next level. So what happened at that time was, here we were doing this research, which is pretty fun for us, but now a real farmer was very interested in what we were doing. He was seeing the potential of elderberry, and he got really, really excited. So he began kind of taking this a different direction, working with other farmers, trying to get other farmers to take a look at this. And then he also began developing some products. Yeah. So initially, most of the elderberry products were wine, homemade wine, jellies, jams, that kind of thing. But what happened in the last 10 or 12 years was the dietary supplement, health tonic market just kind of exploded with elderberry. It's loaded with antioxidants, vitamins, very, very nutritious. So that market has really, really developed in Missouri. So this led to, in 2010, I was privileged enough to work with a large group of mostly biochemists up at Mizzou, and we submitted a huge grant, which is more than $5 million grant proposal to NIH, National Institutes of Health, and we got it. And elderberry was the primary crop that we were researching. So it allowed us to do some really great research with funding with mice and health research on the dietary benefits of elderberry. So one of the most interesting results from that research, this was done with mice, was a study with stroke. So not to go into great detail, but some mice were fed a fairly normal diet of elderberry and others were not. And again, long story, but eventually they were given a stroke surgically, all good and anesthetized. And what was found, though, was that the mice that had the elderberry diet recovered. Okay, first of all, they had less stroke damage, and then they recovered faster from the stroke. And it was kind of a revolutionary paper. So elderberry, the fruit, really seems to have excellent brain health attributes. So we would really like to do more research like that. So that was very interesting. That was published a few years ago. So the research that is continuing. So here back at the university farm, we've worked on developing cultivars. So we don't have any sort of a breeding program, but the best we can do for now is basically finding wild selections that are promising. And for growers that are serious about growing elderberries, you want to have uniformity and predictability. So you want to have cultivars that you know how they're going to behave rather than just a bunch of wild plants. So all of the growers are using these cultivars. So 3 of them have been released to the public. We have Bob Gordon, Wildwood, and Marge. So the Marge happens to be a European elderberry. But we have another one that looks very, very promising called Pocahontas. It was provided to us. Again, it's a wild selection from a gentleman at Pocahontas, Arkansas. And as you can see, it has these enormous flower heads, and it's very, very productive, very vigorous. So this one is actually available in a very, very limited supply right now, but it's really very hard to get, and it's really not commercially available yet, but hopefully in a couple years. But kind of the cart before the horse, because we haven't really officially released it yet. We don't have enough data to really publish it as a named cultivar. But the farmers were demanding it so much that we went ahead and let them have it. So this is elderberry, a very undeveloped crop still. So we've never had any breeding program. Again, the best cultivars we have are wild selections. We have done a little bit on insect, a little bit on weed management. Last year, I guess it was this year, 2020, we submitted a grant proposal to the Specialty Crops Research Initiative program. It was a $5.2 million proposal. I spent about 3 months of my life working on it. We did not get funded, but that's okay. We did pretty well in there, and hopefully we will retool that and apply again. But what that really had, we really proposed taking elderberry to a new level, as opposed to kind of a wild crop that hasn't been very well developed, to a really significant horticultural crop that included breeding, insect. There are all kinds of studies, including mechanical harvest. So right now, elderberries are hand harvested, very expensive to do that, very hot, very laborious. And we are pretty sure that we can harvest it mechanically. So, but it's going to take money and some engineering to do that. So that was in the grant, and hopefully we will be able to try again on that. So we have one of our latest studies. I had a graduate student, Sam Sargent, who is just finishing up. So in addition to the fruit, the flowers are also very medicinal and in demand. And in fact, in Europe, the flowers are used more than the fruit. So the fruit is well known as an antioxidant, but the flowers are very powerful as an antiviral. And there are published papers on that. So lo and behold, when the coronavirus emerged, elderberry sales just skyrocketed, not only the flowers, dried flowers, and the fruit, but also the plants. So I was pretty surprised to be getting a lot of calls, people wanting to grow them. So we did a study showing that we can actually take a portion of the flowers. Of course, if you harvest the flowers, you won't have any fruit. But so we can take a portion of the flowers, maybe 25% of the flowers, and still have a really good fruit crop. So now we have 2 crops from the same plant. So very interesting study. Hopefully that'll be published in the next year. We also have a study where we are looking at antioxidant levels on elderberry plants from all over the eastern United States. So it's kind of a long story, but colleagues at the Missouri Botanical Garden collected plants from everywhere from Pennsylvania to Arkansas, South Carolina, Indiana, and they were analyzed for their antioxidant levels. And we found that areas, say for example, elderberries from Pennsylvania might have been higher or lower in a particular antioxidant or antioxidant profile compared to South Carolina, which was different. So why is that? So it took several years, but we did a study where we collected those. We brought them together here in Missouri in what we call a common garden setting. So side by side with kind of blind replication, you may have the Indiana, Pennsylvania, Arkansas right next to each other, and with Missouri varieties in there as well, and seeing how they behave. So basically the question, are those differences that we found in the antioxidants genetic or due to the environment? So by bringing them together in the same environment, we're able to sort that out. So stay tuned. We don't have the results yet, but I suspect it's a little bit of both. I'm sure there are genetic differences, but also the environment can really influence that. So that's another study that has been finished, but it takes a long time to write these up and analyze the data. So that's kind of quick and dirty on elderberries. You can call me. My phone number is 417-466-0065, and my email is Thomas, THOMASAL, @ Missouri.edu. Thanks a lot.